it started off like stonks can only go up. Let's make some money. Let's
Yeah.
take some bets on this thing. And it became Occupy Wall Street 2.0. And I wanted to see that energy shift into people getting properly educated about why it's corrupt and why you need to opt out of the system. Sure, fight the battle, try to take down Melvin Capital and Citadel, but continue your learning journey on like what is the alternative to this corrupt system. It's Bitcoin, it's not crypto. And unfortunately there's a lot of people like celebrities and YouTubers, Elon Musk, all kinds of celebrities and influencers are shilling crypto stuff, which is just causing these folks that were on the precipice of Wall Street bets seeing the corruption, seeing how the media started to demonize them as Russian shills and all this ridiculous stuff. Like this young generation is seeing firsthand how broken everything is. The money system, the media system. There's an epistemic crisis in the news and in the media, and unfortunately there is in crypto too, because people don't really understand. I think like people don't understand the value of Bitcoin, why it was created. And that's what I always like to get back to. It was created as a protest against central banks printing money, enriching bankers, bailing out Wall Street, and footing the bill to the taxpayer. And Bitcoin fundamentally is government resistant. There was all kinds of digital currencies before Bitcoin that were centralized because they always have central points of failure. There's a team that you can identify that created it. There's a central list somewhere. There's a central oracle somewhere. And the government, if they decide to go after this, can just shut that person down. They may, like some of them, the network may keep going, but they can coerce the people that run the nodes to censor transactions or fork out certain smart contracts if you're on Ethereum or whatever, if there's centralization. So with Bitcoin, it does like I think it's I think it's like more computing net power than any other network on the planet. So that is so decentralized that a government right now would have a hard time attacking it because there's no centralized authority there. Like we fought a whole civil war in 2017 about changing Bitcoin, and the Bitcoiners won. Like there was significant money on the side of changing Bitcoin, and from businesses like Coinbase and the biggest miners on the planet. Like there was a lot of money, uh, a lot of egotistical like CEO types of people were like, this is going to fix Bitcoin. We need this to happen so that we can go forward and Bitcoin can survive, blah, blah, blah. Like it was good intentions, I think. Like they wanted to actually like, I think they wanted to do it for the good of Bitcoin,
What were they trying
but
to do? Just for this is the you're talking about the fork, right, in 2017. But like, what
yeah.
exactly was going on in that debate?
So there's a concept for how to upgrade a blockchain network or a DLT, a distributed ledger technology or whatever. You can either soft fork the change in or you can hard fork the change in. And a hard fork is not backwards compatible. A soft fork is backwards compatible. And the problem with a hard fork is that it's actually creating a separate it's like a new endpoint. It's like a new network. And everybody has to agree to go to the new network. But the other one still exists. So in a soft fork, that doesn't happen. There's not this point where there's now two of the same thing, and you just have to hope everybody goes to the new one. In with all kinds of other cryptocurrencies, they hard fork changes in, and they just are so centralized in most cases that the people that run all the nodes and that actually are the source of like how much money you have in your wallet, they all choose to put you on the new one. So that's what they were trying to do in 2017. We were trying to like decide how to scale Bitcoin going forward because Bitcoin has to scale to billions of people to be used as a savings vehicle for people everywhere and to be used as money, peer to peer transactions, right? That's what it was all about at the beginning. It was digital gold and it was peer to peer cash.
Mm-hmm.
As the fees start to go up with Bitcoin, as more and more people start to buy Bitcoin and use Bitcoin, the fees go up because there's a fee market in there that Satoshi designed as a kind of genius game theory thing to attract more miners to come in. And eventually, there's a cap of 21 million Bitcoin, and that's subsidized for like 100 years. There's Bitcoin given out to miners every 10 minutes to run the network. So eventually that halves every 4 years. The amount of Bitcoin that the miners share every 10 minutes, it halves every 4 years. It started off 50 Bitcoin per 10 minutes, then went to 25, and it keeps halving. So we're at, I think, 6.25 right now every 10 minutes. And eventually there needs to be an equilibrium where the miners, because that's going to go down, it's going to keep going down. So the fees have to rise to make up for the drop in the subsidy, the block reward subsidy. So it's a really delicate equation there, because it has to be decentralized. And the change that was proposed by the miners and the businesses, the CEOs, and folks like, and some early Bitcoiners that were like super egotistical about it, they wanted to just raise the block size by double. They wanted to change Bitcoin so that you could fit twice as many transactions in a block. They felt that this would allow Bitcoin to go for another like 4 years without hitting high fees. And they felt that if Bitcoin continued to hit higher and higher fees, it would kill Bitcoin's adoption, or it would make it really hard for them to keep running their businesses, because their customers would be like, why is it $10 to send a Bitcoin transaction? I'm going to use something else like um,
Doge.
Dogecoin. Yeah. So that's they tried to increase the Bitcoin block size. That's the simplistic version of it. But I mean, I just spoke for 10 minutes about it, so I don't know how that's not really simplistic, but I'm trying to like get you the fundamental concept of why there was a war. And the war was because if you change the block size like that, it now makes it more onerous to run a node. You now need a bigger hard drive, and you need more transaction bandwidth. So the whole goal for Bitcoiners is to make it so that anybody anywhere in the world with consumer grade hardware can run a Bitcoin node and actually contribute to the decentralization of the network, and actually validate their own transactions and rely on themselves and be sovereign if they choose to. It's not that everybody has to run a node, but in order for the Bitcoin network to stay government resistant, there has to be the threat that the government can't stop Bitcoin by shutting down the node operators. And the more we give there by allowing the block size to increase, because they didn't want to just stop at 2 MB, they wanted to go eventually to gigabyte blocks. And gigabyte blocks means that all the miners and all the node runners are concentrated into like corporate entities. You need data centers just like Facebook or Google in order to run a Bitcoin node. Now, a lot of critics of Bitcoin that don't understand Bitcoin will say, "Oh, but it's the miners are all in China. It's centralized by China. China controls Bitcoin anyways. Look at all these
Not
giant
anymore.
mining rigs." Yeah, but I mean, they look at the giant mining farms and they say like, it's obvious that Bitcoin's controlled by these miners. But that was the whole point of the 2017 block war. The miners wanted to change Bitcoin. They failed because the node runners, the small people, the economic node runners, the users, we fought back and said, if you change Bitcoin, that's not Bitcoin. We enforce the rules. You guys are just well-paid bodyguards. So we're not going to go forward with this. So that their change would have required a hard fork. And then there would have been two Bitcoins. There would have been Bitcoin 2 MB and Bitcoin 1 MB, the original Bitcoin. So all of us said, we're going to stay with the original Bitcoin and we're just going to sell all the new Bitcoins. So it's like, it would have been chaos. So we went forward with this understanding that you can't change Bitcoin. There's nobody, no matter if you're the guy that originally built Bitcoin, or girl or group or whatever, if you're Satoshi comes back, Satoshi's not going to change Bitcoin. The biggest Bitcoin businesses, you can't change Bitcoin. And that's fundamentally different than the money system that we have and Wall Street and everything else, where look what happened with GameStop. I mean, all these people got together. They did something amazing. They exposed naked shorting that was happening. People were breaking the market makers were breaking the law, and they were about to like do it in a way that they won, but the rules were changed on them at the very last second, and people were forced to close their positions. And Robinhood went down; you could only sell, and like Citadel bailed out Melvin Capital, and probably the Federal Reserve is bailing out Citadel. Like, who knows what's happening? It's just a black box. We don't know what's going on. So this, for the first time, I felt like it was like, wow, like the little people got together and they won, and then they had their victory taken away from them, and they were called Russian shills and financial terrorists. And like for a young person to see that happen to them, I feel like it's actually really net positive for the future of this generation that were involved in GameStop, because they see at such a young age what bullshit the system really is. And then I want them to come to see Bitcoin and see like, look, we had this fight. We're always fighting it. This is the real mission. The first boss was Citadel. The main boss is like the central banks that are debt enslaving everybody on the planet. Like central banks are naked shorting you. They're naked shorting everybody in the world. And you don't that's not like crypto. That's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the solution. It's not crypto as a solution. Crypto is like, you know, buying Hertz when it was bankrupt, or buying AMC stock because it's funny, and there's all maybe some naked shorting there too, but it's like it's not the mission. The mission is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the way to show these central bankers who are really the final boss that we opt out of your corrupt system, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't stop trading Bitcoin. So this is a long way to answer your question of can the regulators stop it? They can stop crypto, they can stop DeFi, they can stop Ethereum if they really tried hard. They can't stop Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the most decentralized.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the podcast. Don't forget our sponsor, ExpressVPN, and my book, Brexit, the Establishment Civil War, can both be found in the links in the description below. And also, please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. It's the best way to help us grow. Until next time, thanks for listening.